Okay, well, I hit the live button. I'm sure it'll be live any second now. And we are live.
Welcome to the Critical Christian Podcast. We're your hosts, Dan
and Justin. We ask critical questions about the Bible and provide questionable answers.
Whether you like it or not.
You're going to put that one in there now, huh?
And nobody's watching.
I thought we did away with that like a year ago.
We did. It's coming. I'm bringing it back.
We'll bring it. It's fine. We'll bring it back. Okay. Listen, I'm fine with that. We can bring it back.
All right.
Sometimes, retro's cool.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just say that's our retro intro.
Nice.
Sound good?
It does.
Okay. Well, with that then, let's get right into it, because last week we left off only halfway done with our 10 commandments.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Who would have guessed just a couple of commandments would have took 2 hours?
Not me. Maybe me.
We did a little bit of rabbit trailing.
How many commandments have we actually discussed? Is it?
Well, I think we're on commandment, we're on verse 8. I don't know what number that is.
No. We're on verse 12. We did 8. That was the Sabbath. That's what we spent most of our time on.
Oh, I already forgot.
Yeah. Scroll up, though.
So we're on 12. Right.
Yes, we are on 12. So what number is honor your mother and father?
I don't really know.
What?
Because I never bothered to count them.
What?
But I think honor your father and mother is usually 3 or 4, right?
I don't know. I'm going to check right now.
Does it matter?
Yeah, actually it does.
Oh, well, there's 12 of them anyways.
What? Well, there's 10, but...
Oh, there's 12.
There's
definitely 12 commandments. Just saying, if you just count all the commands, there's clearly 12.
Wow, look at that. There was exactly 5. That was the 5th. How did you know?
I'm just saying.
Actually, it wasn't, because we only did 4. Okay, now we're on the 5th. All right, but there aren't 12. There's
technically,
10.
We're only a third of the way through, because there's 12 of them.
Yeah, whatever. Let's just do this.
All right, with that then, let's grab verse 12. Dan, take it away.
Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land, and the Lord your God is giving you. That the Lord your God is giving you.
There you go.
Yeah.
I believe in you.
Thank you. So...
Yeah.
Not much to be said about this one. Pretty self-explanatory.
Weird, because you wrote notes on it.
No.
A bunch. You got like a whole half page of notes on it.
All right. Well, how about this? I think this verse is complete bullshit.
Oh, okay. All right. Tell me how you really feel.
I think it's been co-opted by terrible parents and those who think it means that your parents' word is law. Where's the commandment, honor your children? This commandment could have easily been cut from the Big Ten, maybe replaced with something else like, don't be a dick. And if you need to know whether you are being a dick or not, you most likely are. That's the commandment.
That's actually a really good point. Someone once said, you shouldn't go around caring what everyone says about you.
Mm-hmm.
But if everybody says you're a jerk, you're probably a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are warning signs. Like if you're a bad person, there are signs. And the question is whether or not you're actually noticing the signs.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, though, you don't like this idea that we have to honor father and mother, but father and mother don't honor the kids?
No, that was just me saying that it's odd that there isn't a verse for the children, too. I mean, you know what I mean? Like the children have to honor their mother and father, but the mother and father don't have to do anything, they're free to beat their children.
Well, you can execute your child, in fact.
Okay. Well,
Deuteronomy 21.
Then I guess I am very much not standing corrected.
And also in Exodus 31. You go to Exodus 31, verse, I want to say 15 and also 17. We'll find a commandment. There's 2 of them, cursing your mother and striking your father and mother, that will put you in a lot of trouble. So it says, for 6 days work is to be done, but in the 7th, I did 31. What I meant was, no, I'm pretty sure I meant 31. But let me check if my brain got it wrong.
Actually, yeah, it's 21.
It was 21. I apologize. See, my brain I was close. It wanted to get the right thing.
I get it.
This is funny the way the NIV says it. It says anyone who attacks their father or mother. That's not what that means. All right, well, let's get something more precise. Okay, anyone who strikes his father or mother shall be put to death, and anyone who curses his father or mother shall be put to death. And those are pretty serious charges.
No, they're not.
Well, I mean, in the ancient world, a curse is something that could potentially, or radically harm somebody. They believed like if you uttered a curse, like you could legitimately kill somebody.
Only problem is, this was the Bible, and I mean, unless we're thinking God cursed people.
Well, that is the way the ancients believed. The general idea is that if you uttered a curse,
yeah,
a deity or a malevolent entity or some sort of divine agent would carry it out.
Yeah, except God probably should have put a stop to that and said, "Hey guys, curses are not real."
Yeah, that's the thing, because in the Bible, curses are real.
But I mean, they're not. So it's
right.
So
nobody in the Bible knows that.
I think they should have. I think God could have easily said, "Hey, curses aren't real. Cut this shit out."
I agree. Yes.
I decided it's okay to swear since nobody watches this.
Well, also, generationally speaking, what is considered foul language is a little bit relative. Our generation, I don't know if they care about a curse word here or there.
Well, they certainly don't at schools, unless the teacher curses.
No, not at all.
If the student does, it's perfectly fine.
Right, of course. Yep.
I hate children. All right.
Good thing you're a substitute teacher.
Can you please blur my face so nobody
Yeah, you're
sees
definitely
me?
getting fired after this. Oh, well.
That's not good.
That being said...
Yeah, well, where did all my notes go?
They're there.
I'm flying blind.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't mean to get too into my own personal business, but let's just say somebody tried to dissuade my wife and I from getting married.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, what?
Oh, nothing. Keep going.
And 8 years later, I think we're stronger than ever.
That's true. Yeah, you had a lot of opposition at first.
Right. And so I really take umbrage with this. I mean, yeah, people just always use it, whenever the children get out of line or disagree in any way. I mean, I know it's probably one of those things where any verse can be, taken and, twisted around for any purpose you have. But this one seems particularly bad.
Well, I think
there's no nuance in it, right?
Well, I think this is a double-edged sword because, for example, the role of a parent is to, train up a child so that they know how to behave. And being that you're a substitute teacher, you met kids that clearly had no parental training or any, at-home discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this idea that honoring your father and mother are actually kind of important for your upbringing so that you don't turn out to be a hooligan. But I think you're also correct in that this is one of those rules that tend to get abused.
Yeah.
In Christian households. Like they think that their children should just obey them no matter what because the Bible says so.
Right.
And I think that's a bad precedent to set as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're teaching them that they shouldn't use critical thinking; they should just be obedient. And I've never been of the opinion that kids should merely just be obedient for obedience sake. I think kids should learn to question. They should learn to be inquisitive and solve problems. I think children who grow up and their parents made it their only job is to be obedient struggle to enter into adulthood because they don't know how to make decisions. They don't know how to sort problems out. And it's okay. If your children make bad decisions, typically they're not the end of the world. They're all fixable issues. You know what I mean? Like, or, they're going to get a couple bumps and bruises, but they're going to be okay. Sometimes you have to let them find the line of danger and experience a little bit of danger before they realize that that's not where they want to be.
But apparently if they go too far, they die. Yeah,
well, for example, you ever have someone hold a lighter up to your hand See how close you can get it?
Yeah, sure.
It's a valuable illustration for a child when you're trying to explain to them that you shouldn't go near the stove.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
No.
There's just a touch of danger, just a touch of fire is enough to explain to them, experientially, obviously, that you don't want to go anywhere near an open flame.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Also, that's an illustration that people used to do with kids to warn them not to go to the hellfire.
Okay.
Just have them hold their hand over a lighter and say, "How long can you tolerate this for? I'll try all of eternity." Right? You see what I'm saying? That's pretty horrific.
It is. I can't disagree with that one.
Right. But that being said, in the biblical times, your children were essentially your property until they were of age.
And listen, I get that. But I also feel like God should have said, hey, they're not actually your property. You're wrong about what you've been believing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I agree with you, but that's not part of the biblical text.
I'm not talking about biblical. I'm trying to relate it to my life here so I can explain why God did what he did in my based on my own morality.
Sure.
Which I personally believe is, I'm sure we all think our morality is the greatest, but
I think most people feel that way.
But I happen to believe that mine is.
Everyone thinks that their personal moral senses are better than everybody else's, just like every Christian thinks that they're the only Christian doing it right.
Well, I don't think
You're unique.
All right.
But that being said, there is one other interesting thing here. In Deuteronomy, God says quite a few times that you need to train your child up in the ways and the law of the Lord, so that they'll be able to live in the land that I've promised to give you. And there's a sense in the legal code that if you learn to follow the laws of God, and then you are able to pass those on to your children, that your children and your children's children will all live long lives and be blessed in the land. But if you disobey, you already know the covenant comes with lots of blessings and cursings, and horrible cursings at that. Invading armies will come and destroy your families and all the whole 9 yards. So I think part of verse 12 is kind of echoing this idea that, like, the structure of the homeland, in that you need to have the family unit strong, and so you can carry on, your theological heritage.
Yeah,
it's kind of important.
I understand. I still think it should have been written a little differently.
I get it. I agree.
Because I know in the Bible it says something like, wives should be subservient to their husbands, but
yeah, Genesis 3.
But in the next one it says, "In husbands, you need to take care of wives," or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're quoting Ephesians.
Yeah, whatever
with that one, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, my point is there's a duality there.
There is, yeah.
And I don't see that here.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. That is a good point.
Thanks.
There's definitely in the book of Ephesians, there's this ideal of, dual subjugation. The husband and the wife at some level are both to serve each other.
Yeah.
Just like in Corinthians, talks about how the husband and wife, their bodies are not their own, but they belong to each other. But we don't really see that with parents and children.
Right.
The goal of the parent is to train up the child, and the job of the child is basically to be obedient and to do what they're told.
Doesn't mention if their parents are doing something wrong or forcing them to do anything wrong.
Yeah, that is a good point. I would think there's enough biblical precedent that if somebody was wanting their child to do something wrong, that God would be okay with them disobeying. And we see lots of stories about people disobeying other people who commanded them to do wicked things, like Daniel, wouldn't follow the law to worship the king, the Persian king. And there's definitely a kind of a biblical precedent, like, hey, when the foreign secular powers are asking you to do things that are against God, follow God at all costs.
Well, I know it's similar to nowadays where you, in my opinion, don't have any responsibility to obey unjust laws.
Sure.
I mean, try to explain that to the government, but I think it's, kind of similar,
I get you. Well, with that, let's move on to something lighter. Let's talk about murder.
Yes, let's talk about
verse
murder.
13.
Okay, you ready?
Let's have it.
You shall not murder.
Mm-hmm.
The end. This seems pretty self-explanatory.
I would say so.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. It's murder is actually pretty complicated because murder, by definition, is the unlawful, premeditated killing of one human being by another.
I'd say so.
Unlawful being a keyword here. Which means if anyone who makes laws orders you to kill someone, it is no longer murder.
That's a good point.
So how many ways are there to kill someone that is not technically murder? I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Self-defense or the defense of others. I mean, it makes sense. It's killed or be killed after all.
Mm-hmm.
War. So murder is okay if you're trying to obtain someone else's land, or in the case of the Bible, kill people who God doesn't like for some reason. Capital punishment. Stonings were mentioned as perfectly fine if the punishment fit the crime. Well, not fit as often as who didn't deserve it at all, but either that or there are a lot of people out there who really need to be stoned. Accidents. I mean, it happens.
Accidents. I was just about to mention that because I didn't know if it was in your notes.
Oh, it's in there.
But it is true because in the actual text for what we're talking about, the verb ratzak, there we go, it refers to either the premeditated or the accidental taking of another life. Now, I would say in either case, it was a life that shouldn't have been taken because an accident implies that the person didn't have it coming.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting here that in the Hebrew sense of the word, and like we wouldn't call murder accidental.
Right.
We tend to think that it's like on purpose, right?
Yes.
But really in the Hebrew text, it's any unjustified killing, even if it is an accident. Which is really interesting.
Yeah. Well, they're wrong, but it's okay.
Well, I don't know if they're wrong yet, because there's a twisty twist to it. Right, because remember, this is the command. The command is that you shall not commit, you shall not murder. Well, if it's an accident, then you're not actually disobeying. So the way the word is used here is that it's something that you shall not do, which means it must be necessarily premeditated. So I would say that this command kind of excludes accidental murders.
Okay.
Because you can't accidentally do something on purpose.
Right. Can you scroll up a little for my notes?
Sure, yeah.
All right. I have a couple more, actually.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, these are reasons that it's okay to kill people.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Divine judgment, also known as being smited or for touching things or not having children with your dead brother's wife. Also, babies being killed.
Lots of babies killed, yeah.
So very many babies. Euthanasia.
Mm-hmm.
So if the government legalizes it, then it literally is not murder.
Right, yeah.
Wait, isn't it the same thing for unborn babies? Why is it murder if the government literally says it's legal?
Well, I think the question we should ask is not who is authorized, or it's not whether it's authorized, it's who's authorizing it, because I suspect God's list of who we can kill is different than the government sometimes.
But we're supposed to listen to our government.
Well, according to the New Testament, yeah. Paul says to listen to all governing authorities because, they've only been put there by God.
Right.
So
only if they're Republicans. When
they're
Democrats, they ignore that.
That's for sure, yes.
It's very confusing.
Yeah, when a Democrat gets elected, if they're from the devil. If a Republican gets elected, it's from God.
Yeah.
It's a weird precedent.
Yeah. And one more.
Right.
Retribution.
Oh, retribution.
An eye for an eye or life for a life. Actually,
avenge me!
God practiced this when he killed all those babies. And retribution for the Egypt guy having all the male babies killed.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a long list of asterisks here for what you can get away with.
Well, this brings up a good point because God's actually okay with blood vengeance. We saw that way early on in Genesis, but there's also a passage that we can tie to this. If you go to 2 Samuel, a second to think, I believe it's 2 Samuel 21, if my memory serves me correct. Yes, the avenging of the Gibeonites. So there's this people group that were already in the land, and according to Judges chapter 9, they promised, because the Gibeonites were nice to the Israelites coming out of Egypt and entering the land, they promised to not wipe out the Gibeonites. And they said, you would always have a place to live here among us. And then when Saul became king, Saul started wiping out Gibeonites. And this was actually very upsetting. And God himself stepped in. And listen to what happens. It says, now therefore there was a famine in the days of David for 3 years, year after year, and David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered, it is because Saul and his bloodthirsty house, because he killed the Gibeonites. So God sent a famine for a couple of years because he's like, listen, Saul killed these people that he swore an oath not to kill. So I have to hold Saul guilty because you can't swear an oath, just like we were talking about last week. Taking the Lord's name in vain is swearing an oath that you don't keep or you have no intention of keeping. So it's interesting here that God is calling them out for killing the Gibeonites, but listen to the answer. So God himself is saying there's a problem here and you guys must resolve it. And here's the resolution that they come up with. It says, the Gibeonites said to him, we will have no silver or gold from Saul or from his house, nor shall you kill any man of Israel for us, which is actually wrong. That's exactly what happens. And so he says, this is a King David. He says, whatever you say, I will do for you. Then they answered the king, as for the man who consumed us and plotted against us that we should be destroyed from remaining in any of the territories of Israel, let 7 men of his descendants be delivered to us, and we will hang them before the Lord in Gibeah of Saul, whom the Lord chose. And most translations will actually say impale them. We will impale them. And this actually gets God's blessing. David takes 7 people selected from Saul's household. And then it says, so they all fell, all 7 together, and were put to death on the days of the harvest, in the first days in the beginning of the barley harvest. Before God, it says. They hanged them on the hill before the Lord. And then God was actually pleased with this because it says, so after they performed all that the king commanded, and after that, God heeded the prayer for the land.
Yeah.
So God is actually, in some cases, okay with blood vengeance, that's some tribal crazy stuff. You don't think that God would be okay with that.
Right. I mean, in our modern society, we're definitely against it, even though it gets results.
Listen, if somebody comes and kills one of your family members and the result would be that you can go and kill one of their family members at random, that could be a deterrent for some people. I don't think it's right.
I do.
Why?
Because there needs to be a deterrent.
So innocent people should die as a deterrent so innocent people don't die.
No. If somebody kills another person, that person is not innocent.
That's not how blood vengeance works. Blood vengeance works when you kill somebody in your family, and then somebody gets to kill somebody in your family, including the person who got killed.
Including
the person who did the killing. Notice here.
So more than one person?
7 members of Saul's household died.
Yeah, but I mean,
for not their crimes, but for Saul's crimes.
No, I'm just saying, I'm sure a lot more people died that Saul killed than 7, right?
Right, but you're missing the point.
I'm not missing
the point. Is these were 7 random members of Saul's household who didn't commit the killings.
I'm not saying that was right. I'm not saying that. I was just saying if they were. If it was Saul, that would make sense. To kill Saul.
To kill Saul, he was already dead though.
Oh.
He'd been dead for a while.
Oh, but God was still upset?
Yep.
Even though they were not killing these Gibeonites anymore?
Right.
It was all in the past?
Yep.
But God's like, I'm still pissed?
Yep.
Oh.
That's how blood vengeance works.
I don't know how blood vengeance works. I'm in modern society here.
That's why I remember when Cain and Abel happened, and God says, the blood of your brother cries out from the ground to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea of blood vengeance. When innocent blood is shed, it cries out to their deity for avenging.
Okay, well then, why did God specifically disallow people from killing Cain then?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Didn't he deserve to die?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I guess it was an act of mercy, but not for Saul's household.
No.
Anyway, I'm just saying that to your point, there are occasions in which God allows murdering, and one of those occasions seems to be when there's blood vengeance at hand.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Therefore, it's not murder, apparently.
I mean, kind of, yeah, basically.
I mean, there's a whole list of, things that aren't murder.
Sure, yeah.
So,
We'll move on to adultery.
yeah, let's do it.
All right. Read this long passage.
All right. You shall not commit adultery. It's wait. Let me read that. You shall wait. You shall not commit adultery?
That's what it says, yeah.
Huh? How did that get in there? I mean, according to many Christians, this is one of the laws that Jesus came to abolish. You ignore that adultery was a killable offense and just be okay that God forgives, even if you do it again and again until you are caught, and only then you apologize. Except for Trump, who's an adulterer and has never apologized for it or shown any remorse.
That it?
There's more.
I thought there was more. I was waiting for you to finish it.
All right. Yes, fake Christians. This is the God you worship. Kind of reminds me more of the golden calf, actually. Because Trump is orange.
Wait, are you talking about Trump or God?
Trump.
Oh,
they're worshiping Trump.
Right now.
They're worshiping Trump.
Okay.
Isn't it funny that things that used to get you killed back in the day, that you can now say a half-hearted apology for and are absolved?
Yeah.
Probably not by God, but definitely by the Republicans.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I'm just saying, apparently adultery is not a big deal. So we could probably just take it off the list.
That's a good point. I mean, adultery.
I mean, how many pastors get in trouble for adultery?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of them do.
And I mean, I know that
a lot of them with underage kids.
Yeah. And what happens to them?
Typically nothing.
Some of them,
their victim has to apologize.
Some of them actually become president.
Sure.
Because Trump was found guilty of
adultery.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And other things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can use the word on YouTube, but
you can say SA for short.
SA doesn't sound as bad though.
Mm.
I'm just saying there's a lot of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Enough so that I think we could just get rid of this.
Yeah, we don't need this. Listen, and this is the weird part, right? Christians will swear up and down that, well, the law of Moses was done away with.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, we need the 10 Commandments. Like, whoa. Did we do it with the law of Moses or not?
Mm-hmm.
One or the other. They really want to cling on to the ones that they like.
Yeah.
And then literally throw away everything else. But there's not a single instance throughout the entire Bible where these 10 Commandments were singled out as being special, as like, these are permanent, but the rest are going to go away one day.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case at all in the Bible. But yeah. Should we move on to thou shalt not steal? I don't know how much we...
I mean, Trump did commit adultery with Stormy Daniels, a porn star. This is, proven.
Well, I'm sure more than that.
And then he, paid her off.
Mm-hmm.
This is, a fact. And I talked to a very religious person about it, and he said, well, everybody makes mistakes. That's why we're called to forgive.
If like Biden had done that, that wouldn't have been what they would say.
No. I mean, Biden really didn't do much at all. So they had to go after his son.
Right.
Who definitely didn't commit adultery.
He did kind of do like a whole bunch of drugs and like did some really shady international business
I
deals.
didn't know it said thou shalt not do drugs.
Well, I didn't say that. I'm just saying
Thou shalt not do an international deal. That's not in there. That's not in there. But adultery is.
Fair enough.
All right. I think I make a good point.
But he might have broke the command in 15, you shall not steal. I don't know if any of his shady business dealings,
I'm sure,
bordered on theft.
Let's just go to 15 then.
Okay.
You shall not steal.
Fair enough.
Unless you already have enough. You may only steal
if you already have what you need?
If you take from someone who has nothing, so that you may have just a little more. That's when it's okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how could you be an oligarch if you don't?
Right. I mean, how is Trump, Elon, anyone who is a CEO of a company ever getting into heaven?
I find it hard to believe, which is why Jesus said it is harder for a rich man to get into heaven than for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle.
I mean, the literal only way to have this much money is by stealing from the pockets of your employees.
Yeah.
Oh, actually. Well, what does that say? You shall not steal?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I actually okay. It's actually okay because it's not stealing. It's capitalism.
It's the good kind of stealing.
Yeah.
It's stealing for God.
Yeah. I will just say, free Luigi.
I mean, I get it. I get it. You know how I feel about murder? I don't think murder should be happening.
I don't think it is murder. I think it's retribution.
But this does kind of border on blood vengeance.
And that, too, yes. This is it.
It does border on blood vengeance.
Therefore, everybody...
Which God is okay with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Luigi's doing the Lord's work.
Maybe he is. I mean, I'm not kidding with you.
I know we're joking. I mean,
how many times...
I'm joking, but it's kind of true.
How many times did God send the Israelites around to kill random armies of people that really didn't seem to do anything wrong?
All the time.
Okay.
Even little babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. Oh, excuse me.
You kill one CEO, and that's the end of that, right?
I am. Let's grab 16. 16, I think, is going to be interesting.
Are you in a hurry?
Well, I'm not in a hurry, but we're going to spend a lot of time
I got a lot more pissing
on this chapter still yet.
You think so?
Well, you wanted to do this rest of the chapter and the beginning of the next chapter. And you always think it's going to take like an hour, and it's always it's going to take 3 hours.
I'm fine with that.
Well, I have to go to bed tonight sometime.
I don't.
I know. Some of us work.
Tuesday and Wednesday are too cold.
It's too cold for you to work.
No, they already canceled school.
Because it's cold?
Yeah.
It's Ohio.
Do you have any idea how cold it's going to be tomorrow?
I went to school all the time when it was cold when I was a kid.
Really? Yeah. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
When it's like -3?
Yeah.
-25?
I walked barefoot in -3 to school.
Oh.
Uphill both ways.
Well,
with wet socks on.
Is that why your feet look so gross now?
Yeah.
They're all black.
Frostbite do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. All right, fine. Number 16.
Sure, yeah.
You shall not give false testimony. Oh, and by the way, for you shall not steal, there are reasons that you should be able to steal. You know what I mean?
This actually brings up a good point. You know, the Jewish rabbis believed that if a poor man steals bread to feed his family, that it's justified.
Let me just say something here. If you have someone like Elon Musk, who could have only gotten rich by stealing from the pockets of his employees, is it wrong for the employees to try to get that money back from him?
How do they get him back?
I don't know. Maybe they'll break into his house. But then again, it's not his house. A part of it is their house. You know what I mean?
I do.
They're just trying to take what's rightfully theirs.
Right.
And why is that illegal?
If well, you're assuming that they're owed it somehow.
Yes, very much so.
How are they owed it?
Because they did the work and somebody else got the profit.
So, do they have to be there?
Does who have to what and the what?
The worker. Do they have to be there?
Beware.
At work.
If they're called workers, I assume they have to work.
Okay, so someone volunteered to go to a job that they agreed to the parameters of. So how's that stealing?
Well, my dear Republican friend,
I'm not a Republican. You know that.
I think you are.
I'm not.
You are. I think you are.
Nope.
You're one of those Republicans in sheep clothes, sleep wolves. You're just wearing clothing.
I'm going to say, just because you want to get paid for doing nothing doesn't mean that that's correct. Some people actually know how work and labor works.
You know what happens if you... I mean, that's the problem with people like you.
Mean those of us at work?
No, people like you. They think that it's a choice.
It is a choice
to go to work.
It is.
It's either that or die. But
no,
it's still a choice.
Not a choice.
What?
It is a choice. You don't have to go to work.
You can just
you can go live with a relative. You can live at the homeless shelter. You can move to a state where it's warm all year round and live in the streets. No one's forcing you to work.
So you think that's...
And no one's forcing you to work a job that you don't like or a job that doesn't pay you well.
So
those are all choices that you have to live with.
work for slave wages so that you are not homeless.
Yeah, what I think you should do is do so well that you don't get stuck at a minimum wage job all your life.
What about all the people that do get stuck?
Well, why are they stuck there? See, this is one reason why I believe in raising the minimum wage.
A lack of education, since it costs so damn much to go to college.
You can work construction. A lot of things you can do without a college education.
A lot of people can't do
construction. You can learn a trade.
They'll destroy your body.
You can become a plumber.
How are you going to learn a trade?
You can become a plumber.
But you become an apprentice?
Yes.
Somebody? Nobody wants an apprentice.
Doesn't cost a dime. Yes, they do.
No, they don't?
Yes, they do.
No, but they don't?
Yes, they do.
They don't?
You're wrong.
Well, are they going to pay
Have
them?
you called a single plumbers union to see if they need new plumbers?
I don't want to be a plumber.
See, that's the problem. You have no idea what you're talking about.
You're being ridiculous.
The trades have been dying for new people for the last 15 to 20 years.
No, the trades are the only thing that's on the upswing.
Yeah, they're paying well because there's not enough of them.
That's what I'm saying.
There's high demand and low supply. Exactly. Which is why anybody right now could go out and find a trade job with no training.
Just pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Yeah.
I get it. Money bags over there.
Well, some of us actually work.
I work at times.
I know.
All right. And when I do work...
All I'm saying is the amount of effort that you put in is going to be somewhat characterized by the amount of payback that you get out.
I don't think that's true because...
I think it is true.
That's great. You, for a living, walk around and, code stuff or whatever. It's not it's whatever. I mean, I bet you don't even break a sweat.
No, I do not break a sweat. No. Nope.
People at McDonald's, for 8 hours a day, they're running around, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and they get paid $7.25.
Did they choose to be there?
No. It was either that
they did.
It was either that or die.
Nope. They chose to be there. They can leave. I chose to work terrible, horrible jobs just like everybody else did, while I paid my own way through school and ate ramen noodles every day for years and didn't sleep, so that I can have a future that would be better than what my parents could have provided for me.
So you're saying that we shouldn't wipe out student loan debt, or we should?
No, I certainly think we should have a better public education system for college. What I'm saying is, though, that I actually worked my way up from the bottom, and anyone else could do it.
Just because you can doesn't mean anybody else can. You're very smart. That's a big one.
So are you. You're just lazy.
I'm talking about other people.
Anyone can do it.
I understand my own issues.
But not everyone has to go to college. Some people can learn a trade. Some people can get a construction job. Some people can do concrete.
These are really hard jobs.
Only if you are a Nancy Pants who don't want to work. If your goal is to be lazy and never work, you will get paid like a person who is lazy who doesn't want to do work. So no, lazy people shouldn't be allowed to steal just because they're lazy.
No, they did the work. They
didn't do the work.
They did.
They did not do the work.
Well, yeah. If a CEO is getting paid like $50 million and the people doing the actual work are getting pennies, that counts as stealing.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, it does.
No, it does not.
It does.
Nope, they don't have to be there. Nobody is forcing you to be at that job.
Yeah, but what if it's the same for every other job?
Not.
What if it is?
Not.
Oh, you mean there are some good jobs out there because there are some good employers that have morals and ethics?
Yeah.
So everybody just has to flock to those.
Well, yeah, there's a lot more of them than you would realize.
I'm not sure there is.
Like the starting wage at McDonald's is $17 an hour.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
You're making that up?
Nope.
You can just pull anything out of your behind.
Mm-mm.
Actually, I read that the starting wage is $2.50 because now they're going to be tipped.
That's not it.
Well, I just made up a fact too.
Yeah, I know.
I can do that too. $17. I can look right now. You know that, right?
Let's look at the national average starting wage at McDonald's.
Okay.
Just Google it right now.
I see what you're doing.
Do it right now. Put it in the... If you don't do it, I'm doing it.
No, you don't understand.
Okay, I'll just look it up right now since you want to do it.
Yeah, but guess what?
I'm just going to look it up right now.
National average?
Yep.
Yeah, it's almost as if California pays more than Rhode Island.
It's only one state out of 50.
I'm sure it makes a big difference. I just don't think it's fair to do the national when each state is its own economy.
How much does McDonald's pay in the United States? Oh, there we go. Breakroom.com's got an article. Let's see. It's definitely lower than 17.
Yeah, no kidding.
The crew member. Oh, this is euros. What's happening here? Okay. Glassdoor.
Getting ready for the when America Falls, I guess.
This is also in euros. I didn't know euros were taking over American dollars. Do I have a VPN on? What's happening right now? Give me 1 second to make sure. Yeah, my VPN is set to Europe. Oops.
So you can get on TikTok, I presume?
I make no claims about what happens on TikTok. But I'm back in America now.
Okay.
And, all right, the average hourly wage at McDonald's in our state is $15.71. Mm-hmm. So pretty close to 17. So not that far off.
Yeah, you know what I like to do?
And that's a person that anyone can get that job.
You got to be pretty physically fit.
To work at McDonald's?
Yeah.
Now you're killing me.
No, McDonald's is killing people.
It's not. It literally is not.
You know, I'd just like to know, like, so they get, what did you say, 15 something?
15.71.
15.71 an hour, and you work 8 hours. So you work 40 hours a week. All right, that's 628 times 4 is 2,500 times 12, I guess. That's only $30,000. I think that's under the poverty line.
I don't know what the poverty line is currently.
Well, guess what? I can find it. I can find the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, poverty line goes all the way up to 40,000.
I believe that. Yeah.
So,
it's funny. Back when I was in college, the average household income for the whole household was only like 45,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's like borderline single home poverty. Wild how inflation works. My point of all this is, listen, if you're on hard times and it's no fault of your own, it's just economic factors are what they are sometimes, and you have to steal a loaf of bread to feed your family, I think I'm okay with that, and I think God's okay with that. But what I don't believe is that you can just be a lazy sack of bones and expect to get paid for it.
I don't think you should expect to get paid for it, but I do think you should expect to get the bare minimums.
Why?
Because we can afford to do that to everybody. And
you mean basic minimum wage?
Yeah.
Or basic what do they call it? Basic universal income?
Yeah, universal
universal
basic income.
Yeah, universal basic income. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with universal basic income, not because you deserve it, but because it's just a more efficient system. You definitely don't deserve it.
I think it's more ethical.
I don't know if it's more ethical. I just think it's more efficient. It's more effective. It's a better tool. I don't think the morality has anything to do with it.
Well, I know they wouldn't, but I think it would.
Yeah.
Because it means everybody can be a person.
I agree with that. That's actually a fair point. The universal basic income does bring, I think we might say, like some dignity.
I bet there would be a lot less crime.
To the individual?
A lot less crime. You know what I mean? If you could guarantee that you had enough money for shelter, clothing, food.
Yeah.
A lot of these people who, rob areas or whatever, they're doing it because they're desperate, not because they're greedy,
No, I agree. A lot of people are doing it because they're desperate. And unfortunately, a lot of them are desperate because they're strung out on drugs and they don't have a way around it. And we don't really have a support system to help them to get over their addictions. And the people at the highest levels of our economic system are making sure that people are always going to have drugs available. There's always somebody in the government or at the border who's allowing drugs to get through so that they can continue to, distribute them throughout America.
Ravage African American communities.
Yeah.
Like what the CIA did in the 70s.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. I agree. There's always going to be some of that, I think. Yeah.
All these things that you're like, I don't go in for all these conspiracy theories. We were saying that earlier. Well, a lot of the time, 20, 30 years later, you find out they weren't just theories.
Sure, yeah, there are some minor conspiracy theories that actually happen.
Minor ones.
Yeah.
Okay, minor ones. Well, we'll see in 20 to 30 years what comes up.
Well, I think there are some minor ones, but I don't believe there are conspiracy theories like we didn't land on the moon or dumb things like that. Those are ridiculous.
Oh, we're not talking about dumb ones.
Right, yeah.
Or like a flat earth or something.
Right. All right, should we move to bearing false witness?
Yeah, that took a while.
Well, this always does. Why I keep telling you, we're not going to do as much as you think we're going to do today.
The only problem was...
we might not even finish this chapter. We're going to spend 3 weeks on one chapter.
The main problem is just that you kept disagreeing with me.
I don't know why you think I'm going to agree with you. But this is a topic we've discussed in depth quite a bit.
And we always...
We've never agreed on it.
No, we haven't. No.
I'm sure we'll argue about it next week. Don't worry.
Okay. It's right at the forefront of my mind since Trump, since his inauguration. And
I get that. I'm having trouble focusing.
Yeah. And I was listening to a very bad radio show, all talking about, just how great it is that he's president now. The guy was like, I'm not being hyperbolic. The last 4 years were the worst 4 years of my life.
Almost nothing happened.
Right.
And not much is going to happen in the next 4 years. I don't think he's going to get nearly as much done as people think.
I mean, we'll see.
I don't think his own party even likes him.
That's never been a problem. They always rally around him.
They're going to be maneuvering the next 4 years to see who's going to take over for him once he's gone.
I mean, it's just going to be Vance, right? He's basically an empty shell that people can mold into their own desiring just by throwing money at him.
Or, put some nice eyeliner on.
He has no morality whatsoever. Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
Or just introduce him to a sexy little couch.
Yeah?
Yeah.
A little couch action, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's dump the politics here and get to thou shalt not in verse 16.
All right. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor.
Sure.
So don't lie on the stand. I guess that makes sense. I think that's called perjury and can be easily gotten around by saying, I don't recall, or as far as I recall. Aren't words beautiful in how we twist them to mean whatever we want them to?
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah. I don't recollect.
Here's an interesting point, though. Do you think this verse outright prohibits telling lies?
I mean, we all know that lies are not. No, false testimony is different than lying.
I agree. That's what I'm getting at.
I think it's probably just Well, in court, right?
But isn't it interesting that there's actually no prohibition against lying?
Well,
in fact, there's a number of occasions where God encourages it.
Well, yes, but those are the outliers, and we understand why they are there. But doesn't it say somewhere, let your yes be yes and your no be no?
That's when it comes to swearing an oath.
Is that what this is?
No.
I don't know. All right. I mean, maybe it's because, I don't know. Just talk now.
Sure. What I'm saying is there's no actual prohibition in the Old Testament against just flat out not telling the truth. In fact, there are occasions in which doing trickery is good. It's
Right.
actually admired.
Right.
Right. So it's almost, when it comes to lying, it seems like lying can be acceptable as long as the ends justifies the means.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
That's how I feel with stealing.
Actually, I can agree with that. Yeah. I mean, if the goal is not to be malicious, the goal is survival. And what you're doing, if you steal a loaf of bread from someone who's clearly got a million other loaves of bread, I don't think God's crying a tear over that. I just don't.
So I guess according to you, they could just get a job as a bread maker.
They could
be an apprentice bread maker, pull themselves up through the ranks.
They could, yes.
Be a chef and make their own bread. So maybe you shouldn't be stealing bread.
What I'm saying is that somebody is going to be on hard times. Even Jesus said, there'll always be poor among you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that there are people that are on legitimate hard times, not because they're lazy. And they have to get by one way or another. And I don't think God would be upset. In fact, the Jewish rabbis would even write on this topic, and they said, the fact that there is a poor person in your midst to begin with is the first injustice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so because of the first injustice, this is technically a justified thing. It's actually settling the balance of injustice.
That's what I talk about with employees, working for less than they are worth.
Yeah, but that's a choice that they made for themselves. That is a decision that they made. They could not do that and get a job elsewhere.
All right, keep going.
Cool. So anyways, I don't know how we got back on that topic. I don't think God wants you to lie, but it seems like that's not really what this commandment is talking about. This is really talking about bearing false witness, so that you don't perjure yourself or lock innocent people up.
Well, like for instance, are we talking about like when you? So this is swearing an oath. That's not this.
Well, it does touch on it because when you do have like a legal proceeding where there are witnesses, typically they do have to swear an oath that their statement is true, and they'll do so in the name of their God.
Yes. So, like, if you're, for instance, like, sworn in as president, do you need, if you swear in the Bible, you can't give full testimony, right? False testimony on that, right? Or is that?
Well, I think that's the idea. Is when you swear somebody in on their holy book, it's up to their God to hold them accountable if they lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the oath swearing.
And that's what they believed would actually happen. It doesn't.
Correct. Yeah, on both accounts.
Look, at a lot of these things only work in that society.
Yes, in the Bronze Age, yeah.
Where they didn't actually know how the world worked,
Right.
No science or whatever.
And kind of the problem is that, remember, these are laws that are purportedly coming from the finger of God.
Yeah.
You expect God to know better in the Bronze Age,
right?
Should we move on to 17? 17 is really fun.
Okay. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, male or female slave, ox, donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor.
Indeed.
So, no coveting your neighbor's male or female slave. I get it. Jealousy is bad. Yeah, we're done.
That was it?
I mean, there's other things, but you're tired of this Elon political crap.
Were you going to do politics all day? Was that your goal?
Yeah.
I don't know why you do that.
Okay, but I'll do it anyhow. I think the other side of jealousy is inequality. So when it's the masses making...
You mean greed?
No. I know what I just said. When it's the masses making $7.25 an hour while Elon makes $5.7 million an hour, this is true.
You can make 15 at McDonald's.
But it's not 5.7 million, is it?
No.
Anyhow, that is considered jealousy.
I mean greed.
No, jealousy. Because you're making $7.25, so you're jealous of Elon for making so much more.
Oh, you mean what the... Yeah. I thought you were talking about what Elon was doing.
No. However, when black people are given preferential treatment for college admissions because of the past 200 years of racism, that's inequality.
I don't think so.
Wait, what?
I don't think that affirmative action is inequality.
No, I mean, it's turning inequality. Wait. Oh, I get it. You know what? I got to say this whole thing again, all right?
Yeah, you messed that one up. Try again.
Didn't mess it up. It was just... Okay. Please. All right. Now we know where to cut.
We are not going to be editing this at all.
We'll see.
This is live.
I know, but we can cut it afterward. All right. Anyhow. All right. When it's the masses making $7.25 an hour, while Elon makes $5.7 million an hour, that is apparently, according to society, jealousy. However, when black people are given preferential treatment for college admissions because of the past 200 years of racism, that right there is inequality. I'm being sarcastic. I'm trying to be sarcastic.
You mean you're characterizing Republicans?
Yes, I'm trying. It just didn't work. It's too wordy.
Way too much. That joke did not land.
It's not a joke.
It did not land whatever it was.
I know, but I'm just saying it should have landed. I'm not saying that.
Good thing you're mentioning all this right before we talk about slavery in the next verse.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying, no, I'm saying that the Republicans are okay with people making $7.25 an hour because they're just jealous. But they're not okay with like actual racism, inequality, because they, you know what I mean? Can we just erase the last 5 minutes?
Yeah, we'll just pretend none of that happened.
Okay. If anybody's watching, stop and rewind it and go home. All right.
Good thing you went to school for English, so you'd be good with words.
I'm good with the written. Oh, I did write that down.
All right, that's fine. Let's talk about what's happening here, though.
Yeah.
First of all, this is interesting because this is the first commandment God gives where like it's a thought crime.
Oh yes. Okay.
Right.
A thought crime, huh?
But the interesting part here is, okay. He's talking about coveting your neighbor's possessions, right?
Yeah.
And in the list, he talks about the house. Talks about the neighbor's wife. Talks about the neighbor's slaves, and then the ox and donkey and whatnot. So the way this reads here is essentially that, first of all, the wife is property of the husband, which does line up in the Bible, and also that, like, it's cool to own slaves.
Well, yes.
Saying,
I mean, I guess it's not really saying that at this point. It's going to say it eventually. But right now, it's just saying, don't get jealous that your neighbor has slaves and you don't. It's not saying what your neighbor is doing is right or wrong.
But the very next chapter does.
Well, that's fine. But I'm just going chapter by chapter.
I know. And I don't want to get tied up in slavery this week because we're going to run out of time and not finish the chapter. But next week, when we're in chapter 21...
We're going to be in chapter 21 this week, too.
I don't think it's going to happen.
All right, I'll just stop talking.
Nah, that's not how that works. So we actually have to finish this chapter. But what I'm saying is that next week, when we get to chapter 21, we are definitely going to be addressing slavery. And so we can get back to verse 17 here, because Exodus 21, it does say some It's got some horrific commandments in regards to slavery, and I know that some people will read it very quickly and try to wash it away, but when you read it a couple times pretty slowly, it kind of makes it worse and worse every time you read it. So I think we owe it to ourselves next week to do that topic justice by not rushing it.
All right, that's fair.
Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
That means I'm going to start talking very slowly.
There's still a lot of verses left this week.
No, there aren't.
Just read 18.
All right.
Well, actually, 18 and 19.
All right. When all the people witnessed the thunder and lightning, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountains smoking, they were afraid and trembled and stood at a distance.
We will not go a single week without you throwing your phone on the ground.
No.
I don't know how you do that every week.
You know how they got those little...
I need to get you a fidget spinner or
I was
something.
going to say, you know how people have fidget spinners? My phone is kind of playing around.
Yeah. Do you have like ADD? What's going on here?
No.
I'm just curious.
I like to put on my fingers.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to try this again. When all the people witnessed the thunder and lightning, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking, they were afraid and trembled and stood at a distance. And said to Moses, "You speak to us, and we will listen, but do not let God speak to us, lest we will die." I just want to say the little bitch asses. All right. What was that?
So I was trying to put this together earlier today, and it seemed a little odd because it was hard to tell exactly where Moses was when this was happening. It seems like they're all still at the foot of the mountain.
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously. They have to be. Because they're doing the thunder and lightning. Also, it says, "in the mountain was smoking."
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if we go back to chapter 19, verse, I think 12. No, 8, 9, 10, 9 and 10. God, in verse 10, it says, "The Lord said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow and have them wash their clothes." Okay, so he goes up the mountain and he goes down the mountain and he consecrates the people. And it says in verse 16, "On the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning as well as thick cloud on the mountain and a blast of a trumpet." Okay, so it says Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God. They took their stand at the foot of the mountain. Now Sinai was wrapped in smoke because the Lord, blah, 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 blah. Moses would speak to God, and God would answer in the thunder. When the Lord descended upon Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain, the Lord summoned Moses to the top of the mountain. Okay, so now Moses is on the top of the mountain,
Okay.
and God is speaking to Moses.
Sure.
It says, "Then the Lord said to Moses, go down and warn the people not to break through to the Lord to look, otherwise many of them will perish, even the priests," so on and so forth. And then it says, "The Lord said to him, go down and come up, bringing Aaron with you, but do not let either the priests or the people break through." So the words in chapter 20 that we've been reading so far seems to be words that God is speaking specifically to Moses while Moses and Aaron are on the mountain.
Oh, I see.
That makes sense?
But now it's kind of making it seem as though God is talking to them.
But
and they don't like it.
Exactly. The way that it is worded now, it seems like Moses descended down to the foot of the mountain again. Because it says Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid." But the editor kind of left that part out. They didn't tell us that Moses went down. Because when I was reading this earlier today, I was like, when all the people witnessed the thunder, blah, 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 and then it says Moses said to people, I'm like, what do you mean Moses? What did he do, shout from the top of the mountain? He didn't come down the mountain yet. So it's just really interesting. As we've noticed a million times before, the narration has plot holes. Like, there's gaps.
I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think this is an issue at all.
I didn't say it's an issue. I'm just saying it's a weird gap.
I know. I'm just saying I think you should be able to read this and understand immediately that clearly Moses is already down.
Well, he must have.
I'm just saying, I don't know if you really needed to say that.
I think it's helpful to say it.
Superfluous.
Well, no, because if you're tracking the people's movements and he's on top of the mountain receiving word from God privately, and now he's talking to the people.
Yeah, but we know that people aren't going to be all coming up the mountains, so obviously Moses had to be down with the people. It's obvious, so you don't have to write it.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that obvious. It should have just said, and then Moses went down, off the mountaintop and talked to the people.
I'm just saying it's not necessary, but yeah.
Well, if you were writing a story, you would have included that part.
I probably wouldn't have.
Oh, you are
lying. I would
assume
my reader is smart enough to figure that out based on the context.
I don't think those assumptions are good.
Well,
you should never assume that your reader is super smart.
That's what I'm doing with
You've seen people.
I know, but that's what I'm doing with my book. I'm just assuming they'll get all the jokes.
That's not going to work out.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. But all that being said.
Yes.
Right. They're at least obeying. They're standing at a distance so they don't die, lest the fire of the Lord break out against them. Right?
Yes.
But here's the thing. Excuse me. In 19 it says, and Moses, they said to Moses, you speak to us and we will listen, but do not let God speak to us lest we die. Which means the whole time he was speaking to Moses before on the mountain, they couldn't have heard him.
Right.
So it's interesting that God's like whispering to Moses.
Yeah.
But now he's like booming. So God has the ability to talk without scaring people.
I mean,
it's also weird that it says, do not be afraid, for God has come only to test you.
We didn't read that yet.
We've already talked about that a million times.
Well, the point is, I don't think it actually says that God was speaking to them, does it? It just says they don't want God to speak to them, right?
Right.
So,
because it says, when all the people witnessed the thunder and the lightning and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking, they were afraid and trembled.
That God was going to come down and talk to them, right?
Actually, you know what was interesting? You can actually take verse 18 and plug it right at the beginning of the chapter. Right? So if you go to like this 10 Commandments narrative can legitimately just be wiped out and not even exist. Mm-hmm. And the chapter would read perfectly. So if you go to the end of chapter 19, really interesting. It says, the Lord said to him, go away, get down, then come up, you and Aaron with you, but do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. Now all the people witnessed the thunderings and the lightning flashes, the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood far off. And they said to Moses, you speak with us and we will hear, but let not God speak with us lest we die. And Moses said to the people, do not fear. So this whole 10 Commandment section reads to me like it was inserted in this larger narrative.
Oh, well, yeah, that's very possible.
You know what I mean? Because if you cut the 10 Commandments out, then it seems like Moses is still at the foot of the mountain with the people. He hadn't come up yet.
Mm-hmm.
But the way this is inserted sounds to me like they put it in the wrong place.
I mean, that's happened before.
Yeah.
I'd love to see somebody rearrange the Bible where we think passages should go, right?
I would love that, actually. I would maybe I'll check into that.
Okay, I'll write the introduction.
Sounds good.
All right, sweet.
At least a forward.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Or a blurb on the back,
or just dedicate it to me. Whatever. All right.
All right. Anyway, sorry. Do we have anything else to say about this?
No. Just
right.
on to 20, I think.
Yeah. It is interesting though that they're afraid that they're gonna die, just because God is speaking. You know what I mean?
Is it?
Well, I'm just saying that the God has been literally saving their tuchuses the entire time.
And threatening to kill them, right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I mean, that doesn't come till like chapter 32.
I don't know. Didn't they already learn about how they're supposed to act around the mountain so God doesn't kill them all?
He did say that. He said, don't come near the mountain.
So it's possible that they're just thinking, I don't want him to come near to us.
Fair.
You know?
Fair point.
I mean, they're probably afraid that they're going to die if they get any closer to God.
I get that. Okay. Well, let's read the next section, 20 and 21.
Okay. And Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, for God has come to test you, and that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin." So the people stood afar off, but Moses drew near the thick darkness where God was.
Okay.
So, what?
Oh, we already read that. Sorry, we had the wrong tab open.
No, we didn't read that.
Oh, we did now.
Yeah, now we read it.
Oh, fair enough.
My point is, so God's booming, trumpeting voice is a test to see if they are all little pussy bitches.
Yeah, I believe that was in the uncensored version. I'm testing to see if these are all punk ass bitches.
The thing is, I could have already told you they were, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was it. Why is it another bloody test?
I know the tests are weird. It's a weird thing that God is testing anybody.
Yeah.
So
test you and to put the fear of Him upon you, so that you do not sin. You know, like put the fear of God in you.
Yeah, exactly.
So He'd be like, put the fear of me in you.
It's interesting that God thinks that fear is the most effective tool of getting people to not sin.
Mm.
So it says a lot about this whole hell concept.
Oh, please continue. I didn't have anything to say.
Oh, what I'm saying, like the whole idea of hell is to scare you into submission.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What if hell is equivalent to the fire at the base of the mountain? God's just scaring you into submission. There actually is no hell.
That's possible.
Because hell is not really a coherent theology for an all-loving deity.
Right, no. Definitely agree with that.
I can't see an all-loving being sending someone to eternal conscious torment by flames.
No, that's ridiculous.
Especially not for, like, temporary crimes. I mean, but let's read about the altar. I love this kind of stuff.
Okay.
22 to 25. You want to do like the whole section all at once. You had nothing to say about the legal system.
Yeah. Well, we can do them more.
No,
slowly.
I'm just going. Go ahead and read 22 to 25.
The Lord said to Moses, "Thus you shall say to the Israelites, you have seen for yourselves how I spoke with you from heaven. You shall not make gods of silver alongside me, nor shall you make for yourselves gods of gold or some gold tan. You need make for me only an altar of earth and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and your offerings of well-being, your sheep and your oxen. In every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I will come to you and bless you. But if you make for me an altar of stone, do not build it of hewn stones. For if you use a chisel upon it, if you use a chisel upon it, you profane it. You shall not." Oh, that's it. And
oh, the end.
It's 25, yeah. All right, so first God says the second commandment again.
Right. This is why I'm saying that I think the 10 Commandments were inserted into the narrative later.
Later?
Yeah, I think that this original narrative is older.
Okay.
And they inserted the 10 Commandments into it.
I mean, because this is where it makes sense to put them, right?
Right.
I mean, I'd be curious to know, when they were written and why they were not included where they belonged and yada, yada, yada. Right?
Sure.
Like, tell me.
Well, I mean, it's hard to know when they were actually written.
But do you think they were still...
Also, I numbered the commandments in my Bible, and there's at least 11 of them.
Well, you don't know how to number things, which is...
I'm just saying I did it right here.
I know how numbers work.
Sorry, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, but, I mean, you're wrong, so it's fine.
No, it's okay. I'm not wrong. It's okay, though.
This guy.
Okay, right. What were we talking about?
All right, so... he says the second commandment again. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then he asks for an altar in his honor, but not just any altar. This one cannot have any cut stones because apparently masonry is a sin. I wonder if you used a stone that you just found broken, if that would be okay or not. This isn't very interesting, but I'm sure you will tell me something very exciting about this. So go ahead.
Actually, didn't look this up. I should have. It is the type of thing that I would look up ahead of time to give you a detailed explanation of. I didn't really think about it at the time I was reading this, but I'm curious if either of my decent study Bibles will make mention of even like a cross reference that could be helpful for this one, because it is kind of a weird thing that God would care about the stones having a tool set to them.
Right.
I don't fully understand why putting a tool to the stone would cause it to be profane, but let me check my commentary here.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I thought you would have something to say is because usually when something's really boring and I have nothing to say about it, that's when you jump on it, you know?
I know, I agree with you, and you caught me lacking here, is what happened. But I actually think there probably is a pretty decent explanation for this, and I'm curious if Eugene Carpenter picked up on it. So let me see what he says in his commentary. What verse was that? 24 or 25?
20. 25. 25, I did it.
Okay, 25. Let me grab that, then see what he says. I do like the way Eugene Carpenter lays out his commentaries. They're super easy to find the passages. So just give me 1 second. This is chapter 21, and here is chapter 20. It says, let's see now. Israel could, if she desired, construct an altar of stones, but only stones unworked by human shaping tools. As the earth was graced by God's presence, so a hewn stone altar could not be the center of admiration and pride because of its human working and design. The nature and characteristic of the earthen altar was maintained by not altering the stones with human-made tools. Dressed and decorated stones would not be more conducive to Yahweh's presence. Yahweh comes because he has lodged his name there as an act of grace. Some have suggested, since Deuteronomy 27:5 and 1 Kings 6:7 describe a tool of iron, the prohibition refuses to allow iron, which was often an instrument of death, to be used upon the altar, a place where supreme peace and reconciliation was paramount. This is actually a really good point, because not only in the passage that we're reading here, God said, "Don't make any other idols." Right? It says, "Do not make gods of silver, or of gods of gold." So he's talking about don't fashion anything with your hands. And then the next thing he talks about is making an altar. It's like, don't even fashion the altar with your hands. Don't even, just stack some stones, make a generic altar. Don't this is not about you. This is about me. And altars in the ancient world could be pretty ornate. Not all the time. We have a lot of ancient stone altars that were not just generic four-cornered stone altars, or horned stone altars. But I actually like what Eugene has to say about that. I think that's probably a good rationalization for why God would not want you to use tools to make it an altar for yourself. He's probably worried about them, essentially turning the altar into a form of idolatry. You know what I mean?
I get you. That's ridiculous. Right? That they would do that. I'm not saying they wouldn't. I'm just saying it's ridiculous that they would. That's very stupid of them.
Well, God's very concerned about them making anything to worship that would be a substitute for him.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that.
So I'm reading this prohibition against putting a tool to the altar in like manner to what he's saying about making gods for yourselves. Don't do it. Don't do it at all.
But other times it's okay to have an ornate altar.
Well, he never does give a command for an ornate altar.
Like elsewhere in the Bible, I mean. I think so.
Nope.
Well, temples?
Yeah, he does. He wants you to decorate that temple. Dope.
Those are different than altars.
Yeah, the temple and the tabernacle are going to be pretty dope.
And
the altar is generic.
What's the difference?
Well, it's probably that this section of text was written at a different time period,
when everybody was all worshiping all sorts of deities.
It's very reminiscent of the type of altars you saw in pastoral nomadism, where they just took surrounding stones from the hill country and you made an altar for yourself. This idea, the whole tabernacle narrative where people are fashioning and creating things, to me, has the smell of coming from a later time period.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of what you read about the tabernacle seems implausible that they would even be able to make in the wilderness.
Oh,
It's like somebody looked back and said, well, we have this whole complex temple worship and sacrificial system. How in the world were they doing that back then in the desert? And so they said, well, they had a tent, they had a tabernacle, and this is how they did it. And it might be true that they actually had a tent of some nature, like a tabernacle, but I suspect that the way that it's described has been done so to make the tabernacle sound a lot like the temple. In fact, when you read that section, it does make mention of, the type of worship, how you're going to do it later once you're in the land.
Is this in Exodus?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Because I don't get any of that, but I'll wait to ask.
Yeah, we haven't got there yet. Yeah. So, anyways, I think that's the answer to that, right?
Yes.
Maybe we should talk about verse 26.
Well, yeah. I like to do all the verses, so.
Yeah.
All right. You shall not go up by steps to my altar, so that your nakedness may not be exposed on it.
Yeah.
Well, that just came out of nowhere, didn't it? We weren't even talking about nakedness, were we? And
comes up in Leviticus too.
Are the people naked right now?
No, but they're wearing robes.
Okay.
Seeing someone's nakedness was a big problem.
And how do you get up there without steps, anyhow?
Get up where?
You shall not go up by steps to my altar. How else are you going to get up there?
I don't think it is up there. I think the prohibition assumes that you're not going to have an elevated altar. You're just going to walk up to it.
Why? Is that bad? Have an elevated altar?
Well, if you have to have steps, then you're exposing yourself because you're opening your robe.
You have to.
They didn't wear underwear, right?
You're opening your robe when you walk on a step?
No.
What is?
Everything beneath you is exposed to the open part of your robe.
Okay. Like your legs? Or something?
Your balls. God doesn't want to see your balls. His presence is on the altar.
Yeah, but wouldn't the robe cover that?
No.
Why not? That's how robes work.
Because his presence envelops the whole altar.
So they should be wearing shoes then? So that their feet
No, specifically they should not be wearing shoes.
Oh, because feet are okay, but the private areas are not.
God specifically tells you to take your shoes off when you're on holy ground.
But cover your nakedness up.
Yeah. You know this. You've read Leviticus 18 and 20 where it talks about not uncovering the nakedness of so-and-so and so-and-so.
Sure, why not?
God does not want to see your package.
I don't get that, but whatever. I mean, so when people wore robes and they walked upstairs, what happened?
Have you never seen somebody in a robe or a dress or a skirt?
I have.
You not know how robes work?
Yeah, you walk on that. You walk.
No, they're not floor length, right?
Usually they are. Like a bathrobe. Is that what we're talking about?
Similar, yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, you can answer the door in a bathrobe, and nobody won't see anything. Why would it be different if
your eye level is above the opening?
Of the what? The eye level. Oh, so people could look up there. And is that what you're saying?
Nope. What?
Whatever. I don't care. I'm too much of a innocent to know anything about robes.
Yeah. So there's two problems here. Anytime somebody is going upstairs, their nakedness is going to be exposed either to God, who is his entire presence is there, or to any onlookers that would be at the base of the steps.
Being able to look up. Yeah. Oh, I just said that. You made it sound like I was stupid.
No, I spoke too soon.
Thanks. Okay. So this isn't just for God. He doesn't want anybody else to see you naked either.
I think it could be both.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
But listen to the words. He's saying, "You shall not go up by steps to my altar, so that your nakedness may not be exposed on it, on the altar."
Okay.
So the altar itself should not even be exposed to your nakedness. This comes up again in Leviticus and elsewhere. God is really concerned about your nakedness being hidden. And even in Genesis, it says they were naked and not ashamed. And then when they knew right and wrong, the first thing they did was cover up their nakedness.
Right.
This is a very prudish God.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. It's just you know how God. We talk about nakedness being a sin and how God created humans naked. Therefore, it maybe shouldn't be a sin.
That's a good point.
So
If God created human beings without clothes to be exposed, then that means their default state upon birth is a sinful state, which is weird, but it does make sense with the words of David when he says, I was born in sin and shapen in iniquity. Not only did he come out exposed, but his mother was exposed as she was giving birth.
that's only because it's a sin. Be naked.
There's more than that. The blood is a problem.
Oh, well, I don't know about
It makes
that.
you impure.
Oh, of course it does. The blood that's in your body that God made.
Right, exactly.
I get it. Who says I don't get it?
I believe you do get it, but I agree with you that it's weird.
Okay.
That, being exposed to somebody's nakedness would be sin. But even in Deuteronomy 23 or 24, I think it's 23, it could be 24, God says to bury your feces outside of the camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the Lord walks among you. God doesn't want to be around your dirty bits.
Right.
Weird, though, that he created it that way.
Right.
To be the dirty bits.
Yeah.
He could have come up with a better system.
Did they not use the restroom in the Garden of Eden?
That's a good point. You would think they'd have to. Also, do the gods not consume food? Or do the people in heaven, the angels?
Well, I don't know.
Do you think the angels have, like urinary tracts and anuses?
I mean, from what we've mentioned, they can, like,
We see them eating in the text.
get women like pregnant or something,
right? Yeah, they can diddle women and get them pregnant. We see them.
And also with the Lot dilly, they wanted the angels so they could, do stuff with them.
Yeah.
Which I think means they had to have the ability.
Right.
Either that or they were clothed, and the guys just assumed,
But isn't it interesting that? Isn't it weird that God would create, like human beings with these like naturally dirty things?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, and we're created in the image of God, that means that theoretically God and the angels would have the same anatomy, which means, but what would they need it for? Because theoretically they're not like pooping and they're not burying their poop outside of the camp. They're not,
But yeah, whenever we hear about angels, they're always clothed.
They're not having nocturnal emissions.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're always clothed when you see them, right?
So
and angels, I don't think that's sin. They're not guys that sin too much, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, but it's an interesting point because, like, if our body, its design and its condition in itself is unclean, and the angels have the same design, then we would have to assume that the angels were unclean in some way too, unless that they have like magic food and magically clean feces that like operate by. It's a spiritual feces apparently.
I mean, I'm seriously of the idea that maybe they didn't use the restroom. Garden of Eden.
They were eating fruit, though.
Yes, but wait.
Their body was consuming 100% of it and using it for energy?
Yeah. I mean, it's possible.
A perfectly efficient system?
Yes. I mean, they were perfect on sinless or whatever, you know what I mean?
But hold on, okay. If that were the case, then why create them to need food at all?
Well, they need food.
Why?
They just need the exact right amount.
But why? Why don't they need food at all? Why wouldn't God just short circuit the whole thing and be like, all right, don't need any food, you're good to go? It would solve a lot of the world's problems.
Well, sure, but so would getting rid of jerks and stuff.
Could you imagine how easier life would be if you just didn't have to eat? That's
Yeah.
like the motivating factor is like, number one, stay alive. Number two, you have to eat to stay alive.
Yeah.
You eliminate one of those two and you're like, I just got to not get hit by the truck, I guess.
Well, yeah, but maybe that's the point, is to give us reasons we need God.
I don't know if that's a great one.
I didn't say it was.
Fair enough.
I mean, I don't know. It's possible it's also made because it's pleasurable.
It is pleasurable.
And God, you know, I mean, it says in the Bible, God wants us to be happy or something, right?
But the most pleasurable stuff is bad for you. So it's a double-edged sword there.
Well, is it bad for you, or is it just bad if it's not in moderation? I mean, because everything is okay if you don't eat a bunch of it like I do.
Yeah, you know as well as I do, no amount of alcohol is healthy.
Oh, well, I thought we were talking about like birthday cake or something.
Well, we could have done that if I'm saying about alcohol. There's no amount of alcohol that's ever healthy for you.
Well, actually, there is.
I mean, unless you're trying to kill an infection or something.
Well, no, but I mean, I think if you drink like a glass of wine a day, it's actually good for your heart.
It's supposed to have some side benefits, but it also messes with your brain. Like, alcohol does things to your brain.
Yeah, but apparently not a small enough amount.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I read that like people that were at sea for a while, they only drank alcohol.
Oh.
Because it was the only way to make sure the water wouldn't get moldy,
right.
you
That
know?
makes sense. I get that.
So, I mean, it has some...
You're right. Okay.
Yes.
I'm with you on that one.
Okay.
Okay, we should all drink alcohol then.
No, only if you're at sea and you don't want to get sick.
Well, since you mentioned it, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I was due one after all that crap.
You got a few of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
We could just only mention those.
Sure, don't worry. All of our views drop off after like the first half hour, so good to go.
First 2 minutes, but yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, it's still fun either way.
Yes.
Okay. So then let's cut it here. In the next week, we're going to, like, the whole week's about slavery next week.
Wait, it's not even 9 o'clock. What are we going to do now?
Go to bed?
Oh, I guess that's a thing.
Feed the cat?
Yeah, he seems like he's a little hungry.
Is Dollar General open until 9 or 10?
I think it's 9. But,
Figured as much.
I'll go check right now.
Because in the wintertime, things close sooner than in the summertime, you know.
I think that's only the library.
Not as many people are out and about.
I think it's only the library you're talking about.
Then.
But I think it's only the library.
Dollar General is the best, though.
A Dollar General.
Yeah.
I was doing Dollar Tree for some reason.
I mean, Dollar Tree's okay, but...
Yeah. They close at... Oh. I could actually put, like, where I'm at. Yeah. Okay. It looks like 10 o'clock.
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks so much for spending another Monday night with us. We really appreciate that. And
thank you to my wife and nobody else.
Yeah, I mean, for whoever watching, but
No, I meant nobody else is watching. If somebody else had watched, I would say thank you to them as well.
No, Dan, thank you for gracing our presence.
You're very sweet. I appreciate that.
Taking time out of your busy work schedule to be with us.
I work plenty.
It's fine. I'm just giving you a hard time.
You know what? Some people live to work. I work to live.
I'd say that's accurate.
Yes. Okay.
But like the thing of it is though, like you've never hidden it from anybody.
Right.
Like you're open with it. You're not like trying to con anybody.
No.
You're just like I don't want to work and I'm not going to.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Mm.
All right, let's cut it here before we go on another rabbit trail.
Just so everybody knows, I do have an actual job.
All right, you do actually have a job.
Okay.
2 days a week.
Hey, you know what? All right, we're done here.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Bye, guys.
How do I turn this thing?